the store managers want to have local Instagram accounts for that specific store. They don't want to work with a global Instagram account which is completely irrelevant for the local city or whatever it is.
You need to work with the customer, not against her. You have to make sure that you are where the customer is, and then you are relevant and interesting, and you kind of then deserve the attention.
Is it a destination or is it a store?
Welcome to the Next-Gen Retail pod. We're recording here at Mariatorget in the Next-Gen Retail Hub, where a few companies, I think we're 13 companies now that are sitting, working more or less with retail in one way or another. And today I have the great privilege of sitting here with two guests. I have Caroline Thoren from Nexer Group and Munsak Song from, I guess, Panagora, but also some other things, I guess. Right. Today we will, the topic of today will be, we'll talk about lots of things around retail, but the main thing is that we will explore how, if and why e-com companies are more or less forced to open physical locations. Could, I guess, be pop-ups, but also more long-term stores. So see that is happening more and more. I saw the other day that Shein is doing a big collaboration with Forever 21 in the US. Also some other big Chinese actors were working from a workshop perspective, working with PopMart. We also see in local market here, Lyko has been an example for a couple of years. Yeah. But I also saw now that Kaja Cosmetics is doing the same thing with a pop-up at NK in Stockholm. So this is happening, and be interesting to dig a little bit more into that and see if, why, and how that is that is going on. Right. But first, I'll let you introduce yourselves a little bit. Caroline.
Yes.
But you've been here before, actually, in this pod. We haven't been. I think this might be like the 8th or 9th or so episode, and it's already your second time here. Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, but a short introduction for those who didn't see the last episode.
Yeah, my name is Caroline Thoren, and I work with Nexer Group, and I've been within retail for many years, tech and retail within H&M and also Nelly. So that's my background.
Cool.
Welcome. Nelly, when was that?
Was it kind of 4 or 5 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Munsak, who are you then?
Who am I? Old dude. Been in the game since 2001.
And what game is that?
Basically B2C e-commerce game. Worked a lot with Swedish startups. Worked long time with them. Starting from no money, some money. Tried to make some money.
No, but and it's Panagora, I guess, is your like main.
Yeah, that's where it's like standing in the middle of the crossroad for me. Yeah. It's a good way to meet entrepreneurs, especially now when we work very closely with this Canadian company Shopify, which is coming to the Nordics. I think they have 14,000 merchants in Sweden, and they had about 4,000 merchants pre-COVID. So I think they have about 30,000 in the Nordics and about 3 million globally. So, we will talk about it later, but if you walk around Stureplan, for example, we see a lot of Shopify brands opening both pop-ups and permanent stores.
Great little teaser there. But before we jump into that topic, Caroline, you were part of, or Nexer released a retail trend report before the summer. That you have with you, of course. And we talked a little bit about that then, but just wanted to see some months after, what are like some reactions, and what are the trends that received most traction, and what's being discussed the most?
I would like to highlight 2 topics then. For one, the cookie death. The cookies that are banned across the internet.
A bit closer.
And also, I would say our ChatGPT and generative AI solutions, they are really affecting the everything that we do.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to AI in the spring or some months ago, it was everywhere, but now it has started to, people have started to understand what it can actually be used for. So it's not just going in and playing with it, but it's starting to find some practical uses. I think we will probably see a lot more and start understanding it. And I feel personally that I need to start using different ways or different AI solutions in my daily work and private life a bit more than I'm doing. So that's
same here.
I've just been tapping on a few things more for fun, but actually not really started using it for real as just an everyday
I read
thing.
more about it than using it.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. But then let's jump a little bit. Yeah, the cookie death is something that I guess Munsak will come back to. But then what and why do we see this then? E-com actors are drawn then to physical stores, because I saw that you commented on this and you basically almost said that e-com actors are forced to open physical stores in a way.
Yeah, exactly. That was my word. Yeah, but I think
almost forced.
Yeah, it's quite easy. Pure mathematics, actually, or pure economics as the driver and the force behind this change of behavior behind many e-commerce players, because there are so many new brands within each vertical, like fashion, beauty, interior, accessories, because we have very successful entrepreneurs in each vertical that started many years ago, which inspire a new generation of entrepreneurs. And when they all are starting e-com and try to use the same go-to-market strategy and use and spend their capacity in money and content in two companies, basically, Meta with Facebook and Instagram and so on, and Alphabet with Google and YouTube, fighting for the same share of wallet, then the cost to get new customers just increasing and increasing and increasing over time. And it reached to a point where it's very hard if you don't have access to that crowd and you have to pay for it to build up organic and profitable growth. So actually finding other channels starts to make sense, and going offline is one of them.
Yeah, so basically some years ago it was easy. You could go in and you can buy traffic and you can be profitable and make money from that. But now with the increased competition and also I guess legislation, and there are lots of things also happening there. Could you help decipher that a little bit in layman's terms? And you were talking about the cookie death, Caroline, but there are a few things happening.
Yeah, maybe you have more on the regulation side. I would put it more in two words. I would say is push or pull marketing, where like the big difference is like the customer acquisition cost. Why it becomes so expensive is because of push marketing. You actually try to force a crowd to start buying your products or services. While, for example, there's a certain vector of startups, for example, influencers, that already has a crowd, built that crowd over many years, and been educating themselves and the crowd which service or product that has pull. So they could grow and convert that crowd to a retail transaction very cost efficient. That's a huge difference. And we see, for example, mega crowds like Netflix crowd convert their crowd to a $1 billion merchandise Squid Game launch Shopify e-commerce store. But it took a while to build that crowd. So I mean, I would put that quite easy. Like if you find a way to build pull in your brand, maybe it's much smarter to do it by opening a physical store than try without any capacity to try build brand awareness online only.
Because, I think that the community and the customer crowd, that's the key where you can reach your revenue ahead. Because, I mean, you need to build it, or you need to understand who they are and how do you reach them, because there are new ways to do this, because the push marketing you cannot do anymore because it's too expensive.
Right.
I think that's fantastic in a way, because we need to be then doing business from a consumer perspective and from a customer perspective, and we cannot just buy attention or buy acquisition, but we have to deserve the attention and then the money, and I guess the attention of the consumer. So I think it's, in a way, it's business fundamentals, and looking at physical stores, that's what you've had to do. You had to pull people in, and to create something that will make people come into a store. So it's I think it's, in a way, e-com maybe growing up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange how it could be the same consumer buying the same brand, sometimes online, sometimes offline. But it's really strange how divided these two group of entrepreneurs or companies has been regarding consumer behavior. Because the same people who's building these companies are this consumer on the other side, sometimes buying offline or sometimes buying online.
Yeah. But how would you then create this pull in physical stores? You mean, if you look at some of the Shopify store owners that you were referring to before, what are they doing that will then be successful?
So the problem they're trying to solve is that basically they try to centralize everything. One warehouse, one organization, one company, one like tech stack, one storefront. So it's very lean value chain. But the problem with that is no one finds it. So just starting to go back to the very basics. Where do they have relevant foot traffic for their brand? ? So I think what the retailers has done, or why H&M know where they're going to open stores, that knowledge is not so present in the e-commerce community. They have to dock in to that very basic of the basics, the location.
That's also something that we see in the report, where there are locally anchored, curated stores that are expanding across the globe, and they are relevant to the local community.
Absolutely. And that's why we see a lot of like classic traditional retail chains, the store managers want to have local Instagram accounts for that specific store to take care of the local community. They don't want to work with a global Instagram account which is completely irrelevant for the local city or whatever it is. But I think a lot of the Swedish like merchants that's opening offline stores are also looking in Europe, Asia, and US for brands that already have done similar like go-to-market strategies. So they copy like the success factors. For example, it's not about have as much sales per square meter. That's the most important KPI. It could be very important just to make a consumer enter the store and pick up the camera, and each visitor becomes like a content ambassador and outsource content production to this visit. So they don't convert them to a retail transaction direct, but they convert them in engagement and convert them in creating content. That content goes to that person's social media account, tags that brand, that tags reaches a crowd, that crowd gets back to the brand's social media account, and sooner or later this transaction is coming. And that kind of experience is starting fresh, and is a fresh wind in the retail space.
So you create a pull then through the physical store. There will be like a pull created, and that will then go into the digital space, I guess. Both then as content being created in a way for free, even if you of course pay for people to get into the physical store and pay for that experience. But then you can build a community and a customer lifetime value, I guess, from that.
Absolutely. And I think there are many questions they don't know which one is important before they open. For example, Adore opened a pop-up at the mood department store. It was supposed to be short-term, but it's still there. And people standing in line, what happens is the customer meets another customer. So like that line to changing the clothes starts to build a community. But it was not a part of the concept, I guess, from original white paper product, and just keeps like evolving, and the line gets bigger, exactly as the line we see outside today for the Kaya Cosmetics pop-up is like customers start to see each other. And then something happens, the interaction and whatever that creates.
Yeah, and it's really fueling the community, because that's a great example. Even in the digital world and in the physical world, how do you know what the customers are? And you really need to engage them in order to really be a content creator to fuel your community, right? So you can do it, but you don't know upfront really how to, and you need to explore and try things.
Yeah,
right?
and one of the things that I talk about all the time is that you need to work with the customer, not against her. You have to make sure that you are where the customer is, and then you are relevant and interesting, and you kind of then deserve the attention and taken seriously. And I think actually there are too few companies, especially when they get a little bit bigger, that take their customers seriously and really try to be part of their world and be part of their understand their needs and behavior and what they are really, what their values are.
Yeah, totally agree. I just had lunch yesterday with Jerf Avenue, and I heard a little bit about their pop-up in the States. And what's interesting with that is the supply and demand strategy. There was like a huge crowd that wanted to get there, but like they couldn't allow a certain amount of guests in. So the limitation in the physical space compared to the endless space online could be turned to something very exciting and rewarding and create huge engagement.
Exclusivity.
Exactly.
There's also, I remember, I've read some research just by that there are some extra like added effects of having a physical store, because it also adds like a signal that you are for real, that you're serious, that you're professional, because a physical store is a physical entity. You can visit it. There is a physical address, and it gives some kind of credibility to your business if you have like a physical store. And then of course you can create content of it. You can showcase lots of stuff digitally from that physical space. I just want to highlight a store that I just visited, also a new concept, Dreamland, that was just opened, in which basically phone cases, and you're your own designer, and Mikael Söderlind, who's behind it, was the founder of Happy Socks, who is, to me, really taking the consumer seriously, really trying to be part of their world, just helping them basically with supplies. They are creators, they are doing things, and it's on their terms, which I think will be really interesting to follow. And I think that can be done by more actors, I think, going forward. And I think that will be extremely important. And I remember also when you talked in the report around communities, and I think that's like real communities will be needed. So it's not just companies having a CRM or a loyalty program where you send out discounts and then you believe that you have several 100,000 of people in your community, because they're not really there as part of your community.
No.
Right.
I think that's
I'm thinking that, I mean, the associates in the store, I mean, they have a great platform as well to be part and create the brand. Right.
I remember a few years ago when I was still within the H&M group, there was this, I think it was even called H&M ambassadors.
Yeah,
there were store staff that were given like the degrees of freedom to have to use their own social media and to basically promote then H&M products. And I think that in some stores they were very locally curated. They got to pick their styles, and they had like a couple of square meters where they could showcase their things, and it got really big, and it was really, really interesting as an example of how you can use then local knowledge and local people, like micro influencers that was then created by the brand that actually were authentic people. So I think that was, instead of just having an Instagram account that is done corporate.
Yeah, I agree, and this is also down to the values of the company, because this is the work environment for the staff as well, and this will show to the customers in the store. So it's a great way to show what you are as a brand.
And
right?
We've highlighted a couple of good examples. Are there any other examples that we see of brands? Any I guess it can be any industry, but just...
I'm just thinking of Shell & Company right now, because during COVID, their staff started to do live streaming.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting to see that their knowledge they have about the products really was amplified through live streaming, because they could talk about this PlayStation 5 console for 40 minutes, or, you know, they could give love and passion. They could show how much they know about each product. And they saved all videos as well. So it was not only about making money during live streaming. Every single video is archived on Shell & Company's homepage, and they tagged it. And on top of that, they cut small video tutorials per product. So if you go to a specific product, and that has increased conversion rate huge. So like the competence about each product, if that could be scaled from store staff who knows about the local customers. So instead of someone try to sit here in Sweden to try to write copy for 100 different countries, generic copies, like having local staff and use them to write whatever is important locally to sell that product or service. And that is just starting to happen, I think.
Yeah. And it's really an interesting example of making sure that the advocacy, or like the brand advocacy you have out in physical stores, that we also work quite a lot with trying to make sure that is both trainings and creating that kind of advocacy to be able to work with that also digitally. I think that is something that Shell & Company really did.
Yeah.
Manage to capitalize on that physical store in an interesting and another way. Do you have any other?
Well, I'm thinking about, the experience in the store. You're working with the store concept. What are the trends there today?
That's different. I think it differs a lot.
Yeah.
I think that one thing that will need to come more is the integration then of tech and like tech experiences in a non-gadgety way. So it's not just an added thing that you have like something that happens or a treasure hunt or something, but it's actually adding value. So it could be more of an endless aisle. It could give you more product information that could take you back to production, but it could be when talking about fashion, for example. So I think that's something that also taking then the consumer seriously. I think it was actually Mickey Söderlind this morning when I talked to him, who said that you're never alone when you enter a store, because people come in with their phone.
Yeah,
which is a lot. So you have a social context, you have lots of other things there. So it's shareable, and to be able to use that more in increasing the experience and heightening the experience, or creating an experience. I think that's something that will need to come. And then I think that to think strategically around experiences and the holistic brand experience and store experience. I think that is needed, because I think that there are lots of, as I said, almost gadgety or one-offs. You have one little thing, you have a campaign with an added experiential part, and then that's for 2 weeks, and then that kind of goes down, so nothing happens. I think it's the always on experience, and it doesn't have to be like jugglers or whatever in store, but just these small things that are in line with the brand, in line with the full experience, that kind of takes the customer seriously and adds something that will then take you to want to be part of the community. Scan something, use your phone, post something, go into some other digital experience maybe that will then prolong the relationship that you have with the customer. That I think is going to be core already now, but going forward. And to be able to do that, you need to understand. You need to then, that's of course what I do basically. You need to do research. You need to understand, be very, very close to your customer. Could be any method, but to make sure that you understand and you evaluate and you reevaluate and you reiterate and you try and you talk and you whatever do. And so not just sit in closed boardrooms with a bunch of like 48-year-old men with gray beard and then
but that's me.
Just guess.
But you know, when you say that boardrooms, I think car industry is a quite good example regarding boardrooms and boring management rooms. because look at the transformation to EV, like electrical vehicle. When Tesla kind of fire started this opening in Mall of Scandinavia and Täby Centrum here in Sweden, and this e-com store, and it's all like unified. And why did they do that before all other car brands? It's really strange. And I don't know why that was the case, but I'm sure there are a lot of consultants in Sweden try to convince Hedins Bil or Holmgrens Bil to try, you should start e-commerce maybe. But it's a conservative industry, so they are in these boring boardrooms or management rooms. Yeah. So I think this happening over and over again. But the difference is that EV industry, that transformation in pure money, is so big. It's completely changing everything.
Yeah. They need to look into the retail trends, right?
But how many EV stores do we have now downtown? Now there is like popping up. Of course, Polestar, but there's like other brands as well popping up now. And
yeah, there are lots of Chinese electric cars brands that are wanting to getting into Europe and Sweden.
Yeah,
I think that is it's interesting, and also there to see. But it's obviously, but sometimes it's boring to use Tesla and Apple and some of those as examples. But Tesla was like e-com for very, very, very expensive cars. You basically configured and you did everything online. I actually bought a Polestar some years ago, and I went to the showroom. And then where I leased it, but I went to the showroom and I got to see it, and we got to test drive it, and then but there was just an online purchase. It's kind of interesting because it's a pretty big purchase, but I just did it, and very few choices, and then basically just click buy or lease in that case. But it was just
But it's interesting because is it a destination, the store, or is it a store? Just a store. So, see what I mean? It's changing. And from that perspective, I mean, the Tesla stores, Apple stores, they are more like a destination. So I think this is also something that is happening now. I think Lyko is a good example of that. They are hosting shows and tutorials in cosmetics and stuff like that in their stores. So there are a new era into this space as well.
Yeah, and also I know Axel Arigato they've talked about their success as being a lot about their parties and their communities and what they've arranged in their like store space, but also outside, but that they really used like the physical and the meeting place and people's relationships and doing fun things basically as the core of their whole like business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can stretch community quite far. But you have like bicycle communities, you have car enthusiast community, fishing communities. There are multiple verticals. I'm guessing the generic retail has a lot to learn from those more niche ones. But if they could dock that into their generic retail and scale it, it would be interesting to see. We talked about Zalando earlier, that very mechanic, very transactional, super ultra boring, maybe for a lot of us who's into subculture, brands. But they seem to deliver something because they're quite big today. It would be expensive for MQ or something, a brand like that, to try to kill them.
But what is interesting, when in my research before, when I looked a lot at social context and different kinds of social relationships, and there is of course like the in-group and out-group effect. So you want to be part of a community for certain reasons. You want to associate to these people, and then of course there are people outside of the group that you do not want to be associated with. And if then a community grows too big, then of course the social distance between like the core and what you want to be associated with is increasing. So it's not going to be as interesting. We work with a few like ambassador programs where you're like a brand ambassador, you're out in stores. If that gets too big, then you kind of lose a bit of the reason, why should I be part of this community? Why should I be part of this brand? And that goes of course then as a consumer also. So it's really then adding value to many people, but not really making sure that there's some kind of cohesive community feeling in there anyway.
Do you think, is there any limits, glassroof limits, how big a community can be to still?
I think it's
stay
more
relevant?
the perceived than distance, like the social distance, the perception of it. If you feel like you can still be part of it, or if you share values, I guess those values can be pretty basic and maybe be pretty broad, especially for some brands, because it could be like democratic, inclusive, and that can go very far. If you're more specific and you're more close, maybe then it probably needs to be smaller. But I think it's really important to be aware of what is keeping this community together, what is the core of it, and then be careful to not get too, I guess, greedy, or in that case, chop it up and do different things for different parts of the community, or maybe start a sub-brand or another brand or something if you want to capitalize on other communities. But I think that there is a little bit of a challenge if social media account goes too wide.
But now I'm thinking about football teams. Like, I don't know, I think when Spotify made this collab with was it Barcelona, they have a crowd reach of, I don't know, 600 million, 800 million. And they have a pretty decent merch revenue on their football clothes. I mean, and football, I guess, could be a community. Yeah. And if it is, it's a quite big one.
But there's probably also sub-communities, because Barcelona will have their own, and that will have very clear then in-group, out-group, because you will not like Real Madrid or some others. So then you will be... So I think that football as a community will share some things, and you will be able to address the full football community sometimes, and then sometimes you will need to... So Barcelona will probably not be able to communicate to the full football community.
Right, the different tiers.
Yeah, probably. And to understand where you are there and what the value is and how you do it, I think that's going to be the core.
I think that there are two aspects to it. I mean, if your brand community, that's one thing, and that's where you really can share your brand values and to your target groups. But then there's communities that you want to hook into or tap into, that future customers, or you want to reach out. That's also something that you need to explore as a retailer. Where do we tap into a community? Where are our future customers? Where are the customers that want to listen to what we have, our messaging, right? So that's also something to explore and understand. And that's in the physical world, but that's also, for example, in metaverse. Where can you hook into metaverse and understand where your future customers are?
I think that before we move in, or that might be a next episode when we move into the metaverse and maybe explore also AI and some other things more. But just if we want to conclude and give, like, summarize a little bit of what we've been basically, I guess, everywhere now in different industries and with different things. Are there a couple of
one thing, the real estate owners and the operators, it seems like that community and the e-commerce community is not really having after works every Friday and hanging. You need a bridge, so they start meeting each other and helping each other out to transform thousands of e-com brands to open pop-ups and offline locations. That's a missing link between that. Now, if like you try to crack that, you opening pop-ups and stuff, but like it needs a bigger scale. It's like they're born in the same country, have companies in the same country, but they don't talk the same language when it comes to commercial business.
No, it's like mall 2.0 or 3.0.
Yeah,
right.
We actually have a company sitting here in the hub that's called X-Nomad that are actually doing part of that, AI-driven, also trying to make sure that you partner up with brands and pop-up locations and real estate owners. So they have a pretty intricate system of that. So that can maybe be help out a little bit, but there are definitely big challenges around that.
For example, Huvudstaden, real estate company, Stureplan and down to NK. And look how they took care of the transformation of NK. It's like love-hate relationship to e-commerce. It's like offline is super important, but we need online. But it's not like it's not the largest luxury online store that we have in this country. But it should be, if you look on their physical presence and brand awareness.
Yeah. Do you have any closing remarks? You're pondering everything we've said.
Well, I think that your brand values, where are your community now and ahead? I think that's crucial. Who is your customer, basically? I think that's key to success ahead.
Take the customer seriously and create a relevant experience. Create a destination in whatever channel you are. Thanks a lot for chatting with me and sharing your thoughts and knowledge.
Thanks.
And hope to see you again. We'll discuss this some other time also.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.